Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers, and this is Andy 150, and I am your instructor for this course. And this is Module 2, and we're going to be texturing, rendering, and presenting the dining table and chairs. So this is part 2 of a two-part series. So this is it for this module, and we're going to be moving on to the next module with something new. So I'm going to go ahead and go through what to expect. Again, if you have any questions, please email me immediately at jbyers3 at jcc.edu. You can contact me through Canvas, but it could take up to 24 hours for me to get that. I get these directly, jbyers3 at jcc.edu. I check my Canvas email every day, so if I check it in the morning and you email me in the afternoon, I won't get back to you until the next day. But I check this email constantly, almost hourly. Okay, so that's my main email. You can contact me in Canvas too as well, but it could be a 24-hour, or less, of course. Nothing longer than 24 hours. This introduction will be here, so please watch it. And you are watching it if you're listening to me right now, so congratulations. So now we're going to go on to make sure you check your student email account. You guys know all this. Weekly schedule. You know that we start on Saturday and end on Friday. Overview of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be just basically continuing on from the modeling stage of the low poly dining table and chair scene. And you can read the objectives and what you're going to be learning. Here's just a kind of a quick, I'll probably update this later. Basically, in this one, we're going to create UV maps. So in this whole lesson is getting you ready to unwrap your UVs, basically what is texturing and why do we texture, obviously to make things look really good, because the models themselves are cool, but when you texture them and light them and render them, that's when they really pop out, and I'm sure you agree. So UV mapping is a big thing. It's very tedious, so just hang in there with it. Go slow. This is going to be a very challenging module, meaning time-wise, it's not going to be hard to do. It's just going to be very challenging, so you need to start right away. Give yourself plenty of time to soak up all of the new information, because we got 3 things going on here. It's not just modeling. Now we're talking about 3 different types of skills that you guys are going to be learning. So what are those skills? It's UV mapping, then it's texturing, and then it's lighting, and actually 4, and then it's rendering. Rendering's not that hard, and lighting is challenging. Again, I try to make it as simple as possible. To get a very nice image like this doesn't take much at all. So I know the techniques, and I kind of take you through the fastest way to get a really good render, so you're not sitting there trying to figure things out. So I help you with that. And we're going to discuss lighting. Lighting is a very difficult subject to grasp and understand. Sometimes to really understand it, you have to go pretty deep into it. And we're not going to go super deep into it into your first class, So we're going to, I'll go as deep as you want, ask questions, and I'll be happy to answer them any way I can. So that's basically the course assignment. So UV mapping, we're going to be UV mapping, texturing, lighting, and rendering. So it's going to be fun, and it's always fun to see your final result. All right, so keep learning the My User Interface. I put this in every week for about 4 or 5 weeks, so you guys can start learning the hotkeys. This week we're going to be we've got a lesson content lecture you need to read and watch yourself. Also, you need to go online and kind of search time management, best ways to be effective with it. So that is your discussion. So you're going to reply to the post and then discuss time management, how you use it, what are your personal experiences with it, how do you How do you get things done on time? Just share your thoughts and then reply to 2 other students by Friday. Again, the first reply is due on Tuesday. So I look forward to seeing what you guys do with that. The lesson content assignment lecture is about texturing. So even though this model is really impressive and it's very cool, it doesn't look nearly as good or exciting without a texture on it, without paint. Say if this is real, you'd have to sand it down, you have to put a primer on it, and then you'd have to paint it, okay? You have to think about texturing just like real life. Like you look at real life objects, and you got to think about, when you look at things, you see texture in the object. It's not just flat. Everything has little bumps and ridges and random things going on with it. So you need to think about that. And the model really doesn't show those really small micro details, right? And to reproduce those, it was really hard back, 10 years ago. Now we've got Substance Painter that does all this really cool micro detail. We also have ZBrush that can do all that too as well. And we also have the technology to render and create these maps in 2K, 4K, and even 8K. Okay, so you can see this is the UV mapping part of it, where we lay out the UVs. Basically, you have a 3D object. This is how it works: 3D object, and the idea is to cut seams into the object where we can lay them out flat. Think of a pattern for clothing, where when you wear clothing and you put it, you put your clothing on, it hugs you. You're a 3D object, and if you were to take all that fabric and take all the seams out of your fabric and lay them out, that's exactly what it's like when you unwrap a 3D object. You're just taking and cutting those seams and laying them out flat so we can add a texture to it. Because textures aren't 3D, they are 2D, okay? Right. So you can see we got a huge difference between the first one and the last one, with the process of going through the modeling process, the UV mapping process, and then the texturing process. To me, I love all of these. I just don't really care. I know I have to do it, so it's just, when you UV mapping, it's not as fun as modeling and texturing by any means, but the end results make UV mapping worth it. Okay? Okay, and then you can talk about what are UVs. That seems to be a huge discussion on what UVs are. They're very mathematical. Well, that's all it is. U being, if I go back here, this is your UV layout, and this is the unit size. It's between 0 and 1, and this is U, and this is V. And the best way to remember that is that U is just horizontal and V is vertical. So V in vertical. Okay, so that's the best way to understand that. And then UV mapping, of course, I just kind of discussed that a little bit. You can read that and learn a bit more about it. And you can please watch this video, the basic techniques in UV mapping principles in Maya. That's a very good one to watch. They're all excellent. I wouldn't have picked them and put them on here if they weren't. PBR, physically based rendering, isn't new, but we haven't used it in the animation department. I would say maybe 7-8 years now. It's way more accurate than doing the specular pipeline. The PBR pipeline looks a lot more realistic, and you have to do a lot less with it to get it to look good. Okay, so here's the thing. When you're texturing with specular, there's a lot more work on the front end than the back end. Okay, the front end, you're trying to figure out how the light's gonna actually hit the object, and the specular highlights, and you had to guess that. You had to guess. With physically based rendering, it's all mathematically figured out, meaning that it is going to be photorealistic, okay? It takes out all the guesswork, okay? And when you're rendering, you don't have to do much to it. Now, there are things that I've noticed about metalness that can cause all kinds of problems for students. A lot of times it's just to disable the metalness map if there's no metal. See, if you're seeing a brick wall, I don't need to put a metalness map on it, okay? So, because that material does not have that physical attribute of a piece of metal. So, it's you know, it's made out of clay, you know, as far as a brick building goes, and so it's not going to even have those physical attributes. So I take that out, and that's what I tell students in class when they have problems with that. But Substance Painter will send out the metalness map anyway. We can put it in, or we can decide not to put it in. It depends on the situation and the lighting and the rendering, so we can make that decision later. Again, we talk about PBR and watch these videos. What is Unum tiling? Why do we use it? It depends on the model. I'm teaching you how to do Unum tiles even with small objects. I feel it's still worth you understanding them, because I believe this is, and I know the industry, more and more people are using Unum tiles because it's more efficient too as well. And we'll discuss that in class more, but you can watch that. It's pretty exciting. Basics on lighting, three-point lighting. You need to understand the basics of three-point lighting, because this is the industry standard, and you need to understand how it works and why you use it, okay? And we'll talk more about that in class. Okay, here's some videos on that. And of course, Introduction to Substance Painter, always a good thing to watch. This is older, so there might be some UI differences, so just keep that in mind while you're watching that. And then our course assignment, of course, is you know, what we just discussed: UV mapping, texturing, lighting, and rendering. Extra credit is going to be the walls that we created in Module 1. If you want to continue with that, you can get extra credit for that. You don't get extra credit in Module 1. It's just what it is. Either you do it or you don't do it. And in here, if you want to get the extra credit, it is worth 10 extra credit points. Up to. Okay, depends on how good you do, how the texture looks. And it can be dilapidated. You can have it brand new. I just need to see that you've actually put the effort in to create the walls and get some good lighting going on. Okay. All right, we'll create its own subfolder in there, and put it under your main folder for this module 2. A lot of students have questions about corruption, and it happens mainly because you're clicking on stuff that you're not quite sure what you clicked on, and it messes things up. So here are the best ways to tame Maya. And there's easy ways. When you get better and better at Maya, you're going to have less and less problems, because you know what not to do instead of. And the thing is, I can't tell you what not to do, because you may be pushing buttons on the keyboard when you shouldn't be. And the big one is when you're hitting the space bar, you accidentally hit the B key, and that goes into soft selection. So if you go into soft selection, it turns everything kind of yellow, and when you try to move our vertex, it moves everything with it. If you've had that problem, what you do is you want to just hit the B key a couple more times until it goes away. Okay? All right, so this kind of takes you through if you run into real serious problems, like you're missing shelves, you're missing menus, your Maya's not working like you expect it to. Like if you're watching my video and you're unable to do the things I'm doing, and you rewatch it and you're like, it's still not working. I still can't see my manipulator, which is the thing that you see when you move your object. What if you hit the W key and you don't see your move manipulator tool? you start seeing things missing, that's a problem, and you can't work with that. So I got several things. So deleting my preferences is the first one. So a lot of times resetting your preferences or deleting your preferences and restarting Maya, make sure you follow that to a T. Make sure Maya is not open when you do that. Reset current workspace. I've got a step on that. I've got a step on resetting preferences. Reset the move scale and rotate tools. Resetting the viewport panel. So there's lots of things that you can do. And if you run into one that all these don't work, let me know, and let me know all the things that you've done. A lot of new things that we're going to cover, like textile density, is a big issue in gaming, even in film. So understanding textile density and UV mapping, please watch that video. It's well done, and it clarifies everything. UV mapping. So now we're going to get to the nitty gritty. So this is my lectures, personal lectures that I take you through with our project. So you're going to be UV mapping the low polygon dining table and chairs, part 1, part 2, part 3, and I don't know, every time I add my videos, sometimes it doubles it up. Just ignore that. Sometimes there's 3 of them in here, so just click on whichever thing you can, get it to work, anything in here, and watch those videos. And again, like I said, I know it sounds silly, but if you're watching my video, do small snippets, like watch me do something and then pause it and then do it, and then go to and then go ahead and play it for a little bit, like and you see me do something and then stop, pause the video. Don't watch too. I think the biggest thing I see students do, they watch too much of the video and then they skip something and everything falls apart. So you'll get better and better at watching videos, especially instruction videos, if you haven't. Some of you have your own way of doing things. Sometimes you guys turn the sound off, which is fine. I wouldn't do it now because you're learning so much, and I might say something that I don't show you that you might be missing. But other than that, when you get farther into the videos, you get more comfortable with modeling, you'll watch my videos less and less and go out on your own. That's not going to happen now because you're just learning stuff, okay? Learning the tools. So watch the videos. Just take your time. The thing is, there's a lot of videos, so you have to get on this right away, okay? So part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5. All right, that seems like a lot, but really what I'm doing, and the thing is, once I show you how to do one thing, you should be able to do most of these without watching the videos, okay? But again, you might miss something, okay? So watch all the videos if you are uncomfortable with UV mapping. And then we've got Substance Painter. So now it's time to texture everything. So this is a basic introduction to Substance Painter. We've never touched this before, so you need to watch this and take notes. This guy is pretty cool. It's pretty fun, and he makes me laugh. But the idea with this, the only problem with his videos, they're very, very short, and he does things super quick. So he's getting better at these videos, and I like the way he's entertaining and stuff like that. But he goes fast, so you might have to pause or slow it down. Remember I showed you how to do that in class? Okay, so slow those particular videos down. These videos are fine. Again, this is Introduction to Substance Painter. I have textures for you. Yes, I thought about you. Textures are hard to find any more these days. They used to have all kinds of free stuff out there, but everybody wants money for them now. So it's harder to find textures for Substance Painter. I've got tons of textures, but they're so large. Like some of the textures that I have are over 80, 90 megabytes, and I'm only allowed to upload things less than 30 megabytes, so I couldn't really give you the ones I wanted to give you because they're so large. And then we're going to start using HDR images, and we'll talk more about those, but those are images that we need to have when we're rendering. And we'll talk more about that. And then I go into adding textures to the low poly dining tables and chairs. So here are all my lectures and instructional videos on how to texture in Substance Painter. Again, I am just going as quickly as I can to make sure we get through. I'm not discussing every single tool in Substance Painter, and that would be a whole course in itself. So I'm giving you the skills and the necessary information so you can get these particular objects set up and textured. Okay, that's my main objective here, and then we can always answer questions when we're in class. So if you go through all this before Wednesday, then if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those in class, and that's what I'm there for. Okay, so the next thing is we do all that work. We got UV mapping done. Okay, now we got the texturing done. Now comes importing Substance Painters into textures into Maya. And this is where things get a little bit tricky because some of us don't have computers that really can handle this stuff. I found out that you do not want to use, I found out the hard way just yesterday that Kingston that I purchased and I've been running my modeling off of worked just fine with modeling. But the minute I went into texturing and tried to save it or go into Substance Painter and or into Maya and try to get the textures into Maya, it had a fit. It did not like the transferring between the Kingston flash drive, which is really slow, and then Maya, and it was giving me all kinds of errors. So what I ended up doing is taking my entire folder from my Kingston and putting it on my desktop of my computer and then set my project. And once I did that, I was able to get it to work properly. So keep that in mind before you get into importing the Substance Painter texture into Maya. Okay, these are the videos 1, 2, and 3. The lighting and rendering, I use a very basic lighting and rendering technique for this particular video just to get a decent render so you guys can get graded. But we're going to go into more specialized lighting later. But right now we're just going to do very low level lighting. Okay, so lighting, rendering, and presenting the low poly food can. This is where I use an HDR image to get the nice renders that we need. Again, I'm going to go over this in class. I'm not going to go over it in a video. But CPU versus GPU rendering, that seems to be a big thing now, and it is catching on. And Arnold 5, I believe that's what we have with 2024, has incredible speed changes and upgrades to what they had in the last version. I'm running an RTX, I think it's 2080 Ti. They have RTX's 4090 Ti's, which is absolutely insane. And I'm telling you that I would love to have it. I mean, every time I go to Micro Center, I see that, and it's like almost $2,000. Like, ooh, I wish I could do that. But that's the price of the computer for a graphics card. So I think my RTX 2080 Ti is fine. If you have the ability to have a 3080, that is amazing, RTX 3080. But if you have an RTX card, any RTX card, then you can do GPU rendering. If you don't, then you can just ignore this. But you do need to know what it is, and I'm going to take you through that in class. And if you ever have a chance to upgrade to an RTX card, do it. Because it will save you a ton of time. And Maya and Arnold together can make some really great images. Okay? At a fraction of the cost, the time it takes. So here's some information for you to look at as far as GPU rendering. Okay. All right. So this should say Maya 2024, but this is Maya 22 GPU rendering. So if you want to see, this is with my food can. We're not really doing this. I might take this out, but I will keep this in there fixing blue square bucket errors for your renders. If you run into like little square things, watch this. This will help you with figure that out and fix that. This is kind of, it's not old news. You can still watch it, but it's for the food can tutorial, or the food can project that we're going to do later. So, oh no, I don't want to do that. Stop.
Welcome back.
No. Okay. And then congratulations, you got through it. And then the rubric, please read this very carefully. This is how I grade you and what I'm looking for: UV packing, texturing, lighting and rendering, texturing, rendering. So keep that in mind as you are turning stuff in. Turn in instructions, I'm going to have, that's not here yet, or I had it and then I'm reworking it. That should be done by the end of the day. Today is Saturday. And this is the folder structure. Okay, so create a main folder with your first name, last name, NE150, module 2. You'll create subfolders called scenes, source images, and renders. And I'm also going to have a subfolder for extra credit, so you can put your extra credit images in there. Turn in example, not quite. I do have it. It's up here, and I just forgot to put it down. Let me move up real quickly so you can see. Where did I put that? Is it not in here? I thought I put that in here. There it is. So there's the course example. I need to copy and paste that and put it in the bottom. But that's the instructor example of what you just need to turn in. And if you want extra credit, you'll have the walls in there. Okay. So anyway, that is it. If you have questions or concerns, let me know. If not, you have a great week. Get this started right away as soon as you possibly can. And I will see you guys in class on Wednesday. See you then.